Shocking Golden Age prophecy from 1150 AD predicted today's events and Russia's fall. In the 1135 to 1159 period, Indonesia, then called the Kingdom of Kediri, was ruled by King Jayabaya, who was so just and wise that he was considered, and still is considered, the incarnation of the Hindu deity Vishnu. During his reign, he did not only manage to create a huge state from a small principality, but also made a number of prophecies, in particular, a prophecy about the future of Indonesia. According to this prophecy, many centuries will pass, and the day will come when white-faced overseas sailors will visit Java. They occupy the country and will rule, oppressing the indigenous people, until the time of the reign of the 4 white kings has passed. One day their dominion will come to an end, and they will be replaced by small yellow-faced people from the north, but their power will last as long as the corn lives. And only after that Indonesia will become independent, and there will be one people and one state. The era of the 4 kings is a story of the last 400 years of occupation of Indonesia, which was ruled alternately by the Dutch, French, Portuguese, and the British. In 1941, they were replaced by the Japanese, who in turn were expelled from the island by the Americans in 1945. So we see that all this predicted, prophesied, actually came true. Corn lives, as it were, for several months, but in Indonesia, cornfields have a 4-year agricultural cycle. 1 year they sow and harvest, and the field rests for 3 years. With the advent of fertilizers, the technology was changed, but before everything was just like that, so the prophecy was exactly realized. Further prosperity was promised to Indonesia, but the prophet warned that this time would not be long, since the world would then enter the darkest era that would end with the end of the world. The prophet described the approach of that time. Quote, "One day there will be a cart without a horse. One day the island of Java will be surrounded by an iron necklace. One day iron boats with people will fill the sky. One day there will be full markets without crowds of people. And then there will be signs and earthquakes, and all the rivers in the world will lose their course because the rains will fall at the wrong time and in the wrong place," end quote. And in this dark time, when people around the world will hide in the dungeons, I guess he means caves, a great leader will come to usher in a new enlightenment and peaceful era. The prophet called this man Ratu Adil, which literally translates as the king of the world. He will rule with an iron trident, and his reign will bring the golden age to the world. At the end of the dark times, of the era of the dark times, and the transition of the world to the golden age will be marked by the appearance before this of a certain huge country that will exist for 100 years. There will never be justice and good governance. In the end, this large country will start a war with its brothers living in a much smaller neighboring country. For this atrocity, a large country will be completely destroyed. After that, Ratu Adil will come. I guess here, the largest country in the world, as we know, is Russia. It's the biggest country by territory, as in size, in the whole world. And it says, in the end, this large country will start war with its brother living in a much smaller neighboring country, Ukraine. Now, very often in turbulent and even calm times, the appearance of all sorts of different fake prophecies is quite frequent, but Jayabaya is definitely a real figure. Books are written about him, monuments are erected to him, and there are even some monasteries in his honor. And in 1945, it was the prophecy about the little yellow people from the north that inspired the Indonesians to revolution. So everything is grown up there, and you can see the quoted paragraphs of the Indonesian ancient texts through the links. Modern Russia traces its history back to 1922, when Lenin died and the Politburo of the Central Committee of the Soviet Union put Stalin in charge. Okay, so that is modern Russia, 1922. That's exactly the year when it started its operation in Ukraine. So that's exactly 100 years, just as was Jayabaya predicted. Now, when Lenin died, the Politburo of the Central Committee of the Soviet Union put Stalin in charge, and although the sign has changed with the collapse of the USSR, the children of the founders of this proletarian still rule, but they have been ruling not since 1917, but since 1922. Until 1922, there was still some kind of conditional democracy, but in 1922, it all ended, which gives every reason to consider it in the year of birth of modern Russia. Everything converges, the century is coming to an end, so we will see whether the wise king Jayabaya was accurate in his predictions. Well, we saw that all of his other predictions were true. I'm flabbergasted. I never even knew of this person. Obviously, he was a very capable, loving leader of his people, but he also had a very lively divine spirit. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. This is from Solask. Thank you. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.